The following content may cause discomfort to some individuals, therefore we recommend it not be viewed by anyone. We accept no responsibility for its interpretation or any actions taken as a result. Those who view it are responsible for their own actions.
Okay, so yeah, you can start maybe with where we left off.
Awesome. Continuing after last week's conversation that we discussed many different aspects that, as we can see, always end up intertwining. I thought maybe today we could first touch on the gut feeling, that intuition, and knowing what that means, what it feels like, what is the gut feeling kind of idea. And so I thought maybe we could start down that path and see where that leads us. And then, yeah, so I would love to know, what does the gut feeling or intuition mean to you?
Okay, yeah, it's nice to continue talking about these things and following the flow and what we left off from last time. So yeah, trust in yourself and trust in gut feeling. And I mean, we talked about yourself last time, I think. So trust in yourself, not who you think you are, but not what happened to you, but actually who you are, which is the same as everything else, everybody else. This aliveness within you. And then basically trusting your gut feeling, because you have thoughts, they come from what you survived through, the same with this ego construction and so on. So basically those can delude your sense of direction, inner direction, and sense of recognizing where you're going, what you're doing, why you're doing it, and just following this inner feeling that you have when you know something is wrong, when you know something is right. And oftentimes people get confused. That's why you probably got curious about seeing what people are having trouble with, and seeing like how can they differentiate between what is a gut feeling versus what is illusion created by just things that you survived through. And of course it's not easy to at first it's not easy to understand what those are, but when you start reviving yourself, start understanding first like what things happen to you, like how are you feeling, when you're feeling, are you overthinking something. For example, I know that for my life, I always follow this gut feeling. I always wanted to do something, and I know what is the right thing to do, and I do it. I don't think about it much. If I start thinking about the consequences and this and that, the other thing, you cannot really know the consequences, because the consequences, you can just judge them based on your current position in which you are. That means that you can never really know them until you get there. But if you know that something is for you and something isn't, then you know how to act on it. And then you can get confused. Like, for example, sometimes you can get really strong feelings that can basically question you, like what is the core feeling, what is the illusion feeling, with the adrenaline feeling, what is what you want. Then you can also see, for example, like I give you one example that I had. My wife and kids, one time they didn't come home, and at the time when they supposed to come, they usually never went over a certain afternoon time. And I've been calling them, they didn't respond. I've been calling them, they did nothing, like. So what actually happened, let's say they had to get at 5 p.m. and it was 7 p.m., it was 8 p.m., it was maybe even later, and I started like having these feelings within me. They're tearing me up completely, and I tried to figure out where they were, what happened, and then I went outside to search for them. Like I went outside. I mean, completely stupid thing. How can you search for somebody you know where they are? But you went to the places, different places, and you just like a maniac entered in a few supermarkets. So I can imagine, like I was just like scanning everything like complete lunatic. But it was really strong feeling that something is really bad. And what actually happened later on, what actually happened was that it was actually nothing. And my wife actually forgot her phone in the bag, and it was maybe even switched off or something. And they just went playing around in some playground in on the other part of the town, and they completely forgot about time. And so the thing was like, that was, so sometimes you can get confused like that. But what was interesting about that particular time was that inside of myself, it was something in this was basically this adrenaline and all this crap was building up upon my thoughts, like, oh, what if something happened? And you can imagine what's happening. Actually, you imagine like seeing the bodies and stuff and crazy shit. But those are actually just yes, but yeah.
As a parent, like I mean, it's one thing when you experience it with like, yes, absolutely, with like a significant other, family member, whatever. But like for some reason, like it amplifies 1,000-fold. So I can do this way with your mind go. Sorry, please keep going.
Yeah. No, it's good. You just interrupt me when you feel it's something to say, because yeah, these things that there's no, it's just building upon things, and many people relate in different ways on these things. But there was like another, for example, another stupid example was I was going like diving and something, and then I went to the beach, and they were like, because I had some tattoos and they're a little bit weird, and then I saw like people sitting there, and then there was one older guy sitting on the street, and I was passing through to go to this dock and get a boat, and the guy was like watching me like, and I was passing through, and he was watching me like this, and I was like, wow. And in my mind, it was, as I tell you, like, oh, he's watching me because I look weird, and now he's just like, oh, what a fucking asshole! I don't want him to watch me and things like that, and it was like also like turning around, like, what the fuck is he watching? Like, show him, like, what the fuck, and and then as I was going and went to the dock, I was super pissed. I was like, what is this? Like, what is with these people? What, like, but actually, I was thinking that I know what is happening within him, but you can never know what is happening. And so what happened at that point, I was feeling really a feeling into this, and then what was interesting, interesting, the guy came actually to me, and he went to me and said, I'm sorry, like, I see you're a diver, so I lost my dentures, in the water. Could you please like help me?
Telling you to figure out if you were someone he could ask
to check for his dentures.
Yeah. So sometimes, you see, sometimes can be like something that it is, you feeling there is something going on, but it's not exactly what you think about it, because you can never think about it, you never know. But other times, so other times there is like within you, when you, how do you say, because the gut feeling, actually, how can people now understand this? Because all these things are pointing, they're not actually gut feeling, they're just like your illusion created adrenaline within you, based on the thoughts, based on the experiences, based on what you understand, based on all these mind constructs. But the thing is, when you notice, you can catch them up, because you notice that they are constructs, that they are making you understand what is happening within somebody else's head, or what is happening in things that you can never go to and see physically there. So these are all constructs, and these are all not gut feeling. So these are all creating different, because, for example, like you and me, we are talking now calm, and all of a sudden, like, even if I was there with you in the room and we were just talking to each other and everything is like fine, all of a sudden I take the knife and just like go at you. All of a sudden within you, everything changes, and the fluids changes, the thoughts changes, everything, like, really in a sharp second, maybe even less, everything changes. So, but the thing is, behind it, there is something else that it isn't taught, and you can tap into it if you're just quiet enough, and if you start observing your thoughts, where they're going, how they're going, and then you would see that there is something that is really at peace on its own, and it knows exactly where it's going, where it shouldn't supposed to go, and it just it cannot be forced by thought, basically. But yeah, what do you think about that? And maybe we can then expand more.
Yeah, no, I have to agree because honestly, like it's something that this week I've explained to a couple different people who've reached out to me, and that there is this sense of just being, and very much like how you explain the constructs and this, like our body, it's formulated in order to adapt to our surroundings, whether they're real threats or not. You know, like it's unfortunate that we can experience the same level of, I consider it like more where there's the fight between our human like prime for the earth self, that it's what controls our hormones, the adrenaline, everything, you know, like I remember being young and there was this news article of this mom who like moved a car to save her baby. And it was because the body can crazily do things to make it do. And it's this instinct, right? It's this like, and so whether it be this aspect that we can do this, or whether it be the fact that we know not to go down that alley, or maybe it's even we have to take this opportunity, is that things will adjust in a flow rate that it just, like you said, it doesn't require any force, and it can't be forced either. Is that it's there. And I find that, like, unfortunately, due to the fact that, like, we have this control or attempting to control, when if we didn't try to control it, we'd actually have a lot better go, because we react to going into that meeting no different than if there was a black bear standing there ready to, like, destroy us. But yet, in reality, the black bear standing in front of us, ready to destroy us, our body knows what to do, and it will react. It is a built-in, flawlessly built system. But when our bodies are under the idea, because our brain has told it we are under attack like this, but yet not all the triggers are happening to send these signals. We're getting these things like the heart palpitating. We're getting all these things, but there's a lot difference. You just know. Versus now I'm in a panic state. I'm experiencing the same physical symptoms as to if I was in this situation, but in that actual situation, like, it's weird. I don't know about you, but for me, in the most stressful situation, like quote unquote stressful situations, or perceived like an accident or something, I know what to do. And I don't know if it's because I know that I can count on myself, not in this way, like I can do it, but I know that my body is going to do whatever it needs to do. It's going to recognize what it has to do, and I'm not going to control it, and I'm not even going to try to control it. And I think that's where, like, that gut instinct comes in, is that there's that you're going to do what you have to, and you know what you have to do, and things are going to follow in a way that it's only when we try to take control of them do we mess with them, you know. And it's when we send these thoughts are, oh my gosh, I can't believe I have to talk in front of.
Yeah.
Oh no, we're in threat. We gotta run. And now, because you're not running, because there is nothing chasing you, here you are getting all the adrenaline pumping through you like you would if you had to run for your life. But you're actually just sitting there waiting before you have to talk to these 15 board members.
Yeah.
And I think that's where, like, there is that, like, this is what I'm thinking, and this is what I'm just, there's those different, like what you said, when you back away from the constructs, and like, what have I thought about? What have I perceived? What is my non-physical, so like what is really going to cause an issue here? What is the threat? Whether it be my survival, whether it be the survival of my family, or whether it be just like, how am I feeling? Is it actually just my brain thinking? Because we're not going to die just because somebody points and laughs at us. But yet our idea of that, like, we can't stand out is what makes it that all of a sudden we perceive it in the same way as an actual threat to that primal being.
Yeah.
I don't know if you think that.
Totally. It's exactly the same. That's exactly the same and perfectly explained. Now it reminded me of one example that everybody can really relate to and pick up exactly what you're talking about. And that's how I see it as well. It's like I was climbing with my friend to jump from really high, and we were like, as we were moving, and it was like a swimming pool, so it was like, I don't know, 15 meters and something. So as we were climbing, we were watching down, so we were like, like, oh, it's higher, and more you climb, more higher it is, and oh, let's watch a little bit more. Oh my god, it's so high. And then oh, it's so high, and you're going and you're building up this, like you're building it up. You climb to the top, and then I saw my friend, he just came to the edge and just looked down, and it was like, oof, like I cannot go through, like, and I was like, oof, no, not a chance, and then all of a sudden he just looked at me, he just like came to the edge and just looked at me like this and just jumped immediately without thinking. And the thing is, more you think about it, less you're gonna be naturally reacting to it. So more you think about it, that's exactly what you wanted to say, basically, because more you impose thoughts and crap and fears and constructs and so on, less you're gonna be able to react naturally to a stimulus that you naturally can react to. So the same goes what we mentioned last time. People don't know to take a shit, they don't know to have sex, they don't know to eat, they don't know to talk with each other, they don't know many things, they don't simply know these basic things. And why is that? It isn't because they're stupid, or it isn't because of, I don't know, it's just because they've been very trained to not know these things, and they've been trained because the whole world is made for them. This fake world we humans created is just like made for them to be trained as trained animal, and that's all. Because how you know that is, people don't make a world for you. You make your own world. It's in your own way how you want to live, without affecting anybody. Like, and of course everybody can get stressed. You can get stressed if I get a heart attack here. You can get stressed, it's, oh, I'm victim over there, why now he got a heart attack right now here in my program or something. So that's the so when you stop with all this crap, then your things become self-evident, totally connected with everything that is, as if there is an intelligence that can really recognize when you are let go. When you go to forest, you basically, like, there is one drawing that I was thinking about, and it's basically you have two slices. So you have on the top down, so from the top, from the helicopter view, okay, from the bird view down, you see a person walking in the forest. So the person is walking in the forest, and you see on the bushes, what the person doesn't see is all these animals, and the animals are really attentive. They're really watching this human animal walking there, because the human animal is really determined. I'm just passing through here now. I need to go to the store, or I need to go someplace. I don't know. I'm like determined. I'm going from here to that hill over there, and I'm just going. But what is actually, he is radiating this sharpness, this close-mindedness, this projection. That's why all the animals are aware. And on the other picture, the person just came to the forest to be there without direction. It's not going anywhere. It's not searching for anything. It's not gonna make the perfect photograph or some special bird. So that then the animals are sensing this, and they're not afraid of you. they're not afraid of the person who is. So basically, in one setting, you just come to be into a place, and another thing is you're doing stuff, So you're shoving things down.
And your energy is saying, like, I don't belong here almost.
Yeah. Yes.
When I was little, my aunt, and I would spend my summers at my grandparents' and my aunt's place. I used to, when I first was really little, I used to sneak into her room to go and watch something. And she told me, because she'd always wake up. And she's like, you know what? I'm going to tell you something. Just walk in like you belong in here. Because the minute you sneak in is the minute I wake up. Because Nad's energy is projected that you don't belong here and you don't want me to wake up. And now my internal sensors are like, somebody doesn't belong, what? And so like I learned, and it worked with my kid too, because if I was afraid to wake her up when she was a little baby, I remember like I had to learn, like, do the same thing. I'm not going to wake her up. I belong in here. And like, it's perfectly, because as soon as I change my tune, and although people think that like determination and everything, sure, determination is great. But when you're walking through the forest, and the statement that you said is now you're projecting this, and there's a reason why, like that smell that you're giving off, and no, it's not like you stink, but like animals can perceive it, and like humans can too. They just don't realize it.
Yeah.
It's incredible what the humans, like, I mean, I've seen some really cool studies where we perceive things without having any knowledge of the individual. And yet we make allocated thoughts towards them based off of a piece of fabric they wore at different times of a month, and different times of like stress and non-stress. And you can smell it without even knowing it, because there's not even like a real smell. It's just the hormones. And it's why, like, sometimes we can walk into a room and, our significant other has had like a really hard day. And you're like, you don't seem as happy-go-lucky. And like the room changes, whether it be like wanting to make that person like feel happier, or whether it's like, I got to stay out of their way, or, like each individual has their own thing. But it's that energy of like what we're projecting. But it's also like our hormones that are within that. And it's so true. The animals are not going to be disturbed, because there isn't this like, it's that natural flow. It's like it's balanced, if that's
yeah it's perfectly said. And that also brings me to other parts of this gut feeling, is that when you mentioned like with the daughter, with the being here, being present in the room, like as you belong here, it's perfectly said. I mean, your aunt, right, she knew about these things, and she knew it, I think, not from the knowing, but from not from understanding, but from the within knowing, basically. Because I had one period in my life that was like ups and downs and things, and I was like in a different country living, and different things happened, like, but not really something that you can say like, oh, something happened that made me, it was just like all of a sudden one day it just like flipped, and certain things, like, because I was before seeing things separately from each other. So okay, this is your thing over there, this is my thing, or this is I don't know, the plant, this is a microphone, this is here, this is special thing because this is and this over here. Everything is separated from each other, basically. And everything is too complex, it's like you cannot go into it because it's so complex that minute if you think about something, you shove the focus, like, so you cannot really see it, and you cannot really see it in a relationship with anything else. So I had this feeling that something is really wrong about the whole world and things, and all of a sudden I saw like a lot of constructs. I don't want to go into many details about this, but there are like a lot of things that humans are doing. It didn't make any sense. All of a sudden it was like, how can people really see, even looking at the stars and say like, oh, this galaxy and that look, this looks like, oh, black hole is evil, it's eating up stuff, and I don't know, like galaxies look like butterflies, you know, like all the things that are, they're just picking up things that they're seeing, and just based on their own indoctrination, based on their own understanding, they give the meaning to things. But things are free from that meaning, and if you're not free from that meaning too, you are projecting a lot of things and seeing lies and confusing yourself. So therefore, I had like a realization all of a sudden that people don't know they don't shit, you know, like they don't know anything, and they're confidently with what they know at that particular point of time, but they know that tomorrow they will learn more. But okay, but if you're gonna learn more tomorrow, how can you be super confident in what you're knowing now, which everybody is super confident with it? And then all of a sudden I was like, and I saw that I was like perfectly indoctrinated into being this kind of like sophisticated individual in this individualistic soup, you know, of this world. And what I noticed is like everything that I've been taught is actually a lie. Even the things that I thought that it's me, it was just like, no, that's not me. And I could pick different things where I picked it from, and then I could realize like, but and then all of a sudden I get this fear and this understanding and things. All of the fear, and I remember one night I couldn't sleep. My heart was actually almost rocking out of my chest. It was like so. It was like, or I gonna go completely insane and do some horrible shit, you know, or I'm gonna accept, you know, that I've been lied to, you know, that I've been lied to by my own self, you know, by my own constructed self as well, and that I don't know anything really. And then, but that path is so fucking scary. You can better do some crazy shit rather than, you know, like do something that, you know, because you've been so indoctrinated into the thing because you're scared of unknown. And then what actually made the change there was, okay, I need to accept this. I need to accept. I think I lost like 10 years of my life in that night because it was like something that I didn't know was actually physically possible to happen with your heart, and it was pumping for like few hours like that, maybe even I don't know, like few minutes, but it was like, I think it was like at least like 1 hour, 2 hours, and it was like I couldn't believe that was possible. And then I just said to myself, okay, now you need to accept that you've been living a lie. And it is really scary because I was also not economically in the right position at that time, and it was like a lot of things like studying and things, and all the things that push you to not give your fake self your construct of yourself. And then I just said, but the gut feeling was saying, no matter what it is, you need to just do what's right. You need to do true. You need to be true, and you need to be true no matter the cost. You need to be true, and to yourself underneath. You've been lied to. You've been sucked into. You've been perfectly adapted. It was like perfectly adapted, you know. But it was like, that's all lie. That's all bullshit. That's all blah. And you just give it up. And when I give it up, all of a sudden, what is really interesting about this, when you give it up, all of a sudden you're like, I don't know if I'm gonna even know to wipe my ass, you know, like on that level. And it's like, but I need to accept this. And I'm just like, and I accepted. When I accepted that, what was like incredible thing after the day, few days, you know, it's just like all of a sudden all things made sense. Like everything made sense, and you didn't forget things, and you didn't, you know, forget the basics, you know, you just connected everything, and everything made perfect sense to everything else, and everything was there, and you were there, and you were not afraid of bullshit stories and shit and your own constructs. And it was like, wow. And then I just thought how many people that lived even deeper into the rabbit hole of the society, that the maze that is being created for them, and the boxes that is predefined for them, perfectly arranged on the shelf there, polished, super nice polished. How many of those, like people, if they really see what is going on, if they really just make the connection, what is really going on in the world, and what they are living actually, and what they accepted as what is what matters, then I mean, they can really do some horrible things if they get into the realization. And therefore you realize that that's why they're so scared of this unknown, because the shit that they can, like, I don't even want to think about it. It's so scary and so and so yeah, so fucked.
No, that makes, like, it honestly, it makes a lot of sense, because that's the other thing that I noticed is, like, a lot of people, if they question on, like, am I going crazy? Like, there's just, it feels like it like, and the biggest thing, like, I tried to explain it to people is, like, when I'm working with people, is that there's, like, for example, this was one that I said was, like, I've forgotten my password, okay? Like, my password to something is like my bank card or something. Or actually, my mom, she worked at the same place for almost 15 years. And then one day I tried to think about the extension to get to her phone, the same one I had been dialing for 15 years. All of a sudden, I'm like, going to hang up now? Don't remember. Because naturally, I just do it, right? But it's like when I question these things, and that's where I explain to people, it's like when you get in your head, it's kind of like when somebody asks you a question and you respond like that. And you're like, man, how did I even know that? I didn't, like, if I had thought about it, I would have never have gotten that. And that's where, like, with the compartmentalizing and putting into boxes, like, it's very evident when we look at, especially like medical sciences and things like that we treat the head as the head. We treat the lung as the lung. We treat, like, the heart as a heart. And we don't treat the body as a fluid, whether it be the body or whether it be sciences and, like, dealing with large matter or small matter. Everything is so boxed and it's removed. And like what you said, it has to do with that programming aspect and how we're, like, internally and externally conditioned to follow in that boxing aspect. Is that I think that it's where a lot of people are, like you said, they're terrified of that, like, that everything coming undone. But there is that beauty, and at first there may be that, like, segregation from, or, like, disassociating from that aspect when you just realize and accept. And like you said, that like, am I even going to remember how to wipe my own ass kind of thing, is that, like, you do, like you said, is like you do remember things. There is that, like you're going to make it. But I think, like, would you say that's the reason that a good chunk of the way that our world is and our society is at its whole is that fear of the glass shattering? Like, we've outsourced so much of our thinking, and we've been trained to outsource so much of our thinking, that most of us don't realize that we're not truly thinking for ourselves. That, do you think some of that, like, combatant that comes from within is that gut feeling against that, like, programmed thought, where we are afraid to have the glass shatter and have to actually accept, or, like you said, like, the crazy shit that you can do? Like, do you think that that's where, like, people are doing some crazy shit kind of thing? Like, do you think, like, because so much has been coming around to light over the last few years, like people have really realized how much outsourcing, and some of it have doubled down, and they've doubled down and doubled down their outsourcing of thought, and they're addicted to all these telling you what to think. But then there's like this movement where whether people are doing it the way that some of it has been constructed in a way that like people who are choosing and realizing like, hey, something doesn't feel right. They're searching, but because of the training that they've had, they're still searching for someone to tell them how to feel and how to do. Do you think like that's where some of the crazy aspects are coming from, like right now, that people are, you mixing that fear, that withdrawal or fear of withdrawal of being not in charge, and then also being like almost resentful that you haven't been in charge the whole time? Do you think like that has an aspect to do with the way that the world's kind of like just excessively
right now?
Yeah, definitely. That's the cage mentality that we've been living in and born within it, and of course, yeah, that's the cause of all the useless suffering, that we are facing. And there's also like more people do what somebody else tells them to do, more they don't take ownership, more they're victim, and more they don't know what to do. And the thing is, like, you can say somebody, hey, like, don't do something, I don't know, don't drink that crap water there, you have better water or something like that, or just like heal yourself, with simple things, not that somebody else told you, but a simple observation, not by some other cooked up genius or whatever spiritual whatever potion. No, it's just like, if you tell people something like that, they are completely how do you say, the opposite of powered, empowering, the opposite of it, how do you say? They're
Disempowering?
disempowering. Oh yeah, okay. So disempowering, basically, because they're already in the disempowered state, and when you tell them something that they didn't think about, and they pick up all the whole storyboard of concepts for their life, they don't know what to hold on to. They don't know what to hold on to, and then therefore it's not like that they're bad or anything, of that kind, because many people who want to help other people, they don't really want to help them, they just want to confuse, but because, oh, they judge them, why they get indoctrinated. Yeah, people are easy manipulated, and that's why, because we are animals, we're like animals. That's why all the psychological and behavior experiments on animals work on human beings. They're tested on animals first because they work, and they work the same. The Pavlov dog and all this, the saliva running when you hear stimulants. That's why you go to eat your favorite hamburger at the same place. That's why you search for certain things, because you prove pleasure towards those things, and those things bring you pleasure. Therefore, you know that when you go to those things that you prove the pleasure towards, then you know that those things are going to give you pleasure. You're certainly not going to go to something that didn't give you pleasure. You were more tend to go to the things that do give you pleasure. So the thing is, because of all that, play being going on, I think that yeah, people get confused because they don't know anything. They just know concepts that they've been told, and they follow the concepts. And what is funny, that completely dehumanize people, because, as you said, I think you mentioned, I don't know if we mentioned this in the previous one, but about people sticking to each other, like a society sticking to each other. Did we mention this last time? Maybe we
I
didn't.
think if we mentioned it in our last one, or if it was in one of our
Conversations. We've
Yeah.
covered a lot. So
Because I remember a scene, like I was in a forest by myself, and just looking down at this bay, and there was like in the woods, I couldn't go down, I couldn't go up, I was just there, and I was just like, okay, I'm gonna stay in the forest. And in this dark, I didn't have light, I didn't have anything, and I was just like, nice, I'm just gonna let it go, and I'm just gonna be there. And I noticed down the hill, you could see like the lights. You could see that all the houses next to each other, all pumped, so many of them. Like you can see like lights, and you just think about like, oh my god, all these people, and then all the fears that come into you. You're thinking about like, oh my god, like what if this animal comes? What if that animal comes? What if this and that? And then you can actually trace all these things, all these negative thoughts, fearful thoughts. You can actually trace where they're coming from. So this I pick it up from this person. Okay, I pick it up over there. I pick it up over there, and then you more or less you can trace everything, and then you can like, oh, but am I afraid actually? No. So I'm afraid only if I think about what somebody else told me. So okay, and then you just look at down the hill, and you look at the bay, and you see the bay, all these houses next to each other, and you're like, how they are like completely compact, one next to the other, but they actually hate each other, and the only thing that holds them together is this fear from the unknown beauty of the natural force that is already there. And they don't, this force doesn't want you to suffer. This force take care of everything on its own, without the stories, without you being super sophisticated, genius, intelligent human being with zillion concepts and so on. So, and then what I wanted to tell you about the gut feeling was actually, and the searching actually comes from just following that feeling. Basically, in that feeling, you can sense, as you said, you can sense also like your child, you sense it. For example, for me, I can, or maybe you can say something to this, and then I can tell you, we can go deeper into that one.
I actually had a quick question in regards to something that you had just mentioned. Was it has to do with that searching aspect. Is how do you differentiate? Like, is it like, I know that over time it becomes like second nature kind of thing, where it's just a natural occurrence, where you can just feel like, almost like as if, I always said it was like as if you're sitting right here watching, and you're like, okay, so I know that this is what this is, and I can feel what this is. So you can like acknowledge that when you're searching something, for example, you're searching it for a reason, like when you're in that state. But how do you differentiate that searching for, like when you mentioned that people are searching for that next piece to be told, is, well, do you find that there's a difference between that searching for something because it's kind of already, like it's already naturally in flow with whatever it is, or whether it's searching for something to be told kind of aspect? Because I find
Yeah, what do you mean?
Because when you search for something without like I need to know what somebody else is going to tell me to believe, versus like somehow you almost search something and it confirms an idea or concept that you already have within you. And you're like, I don't know, I kind of want to look this up. And you're like, oh, that's why I think this way. That's why, like, not as if someone's telling you, but it's almost like all of a sudden you just, I don't know if you've ever experienced it, but I get these like thoughts and feelings that just, they show up out of nowhere that I would have never preconceived about it. And all of a sudden I have like this insight on something, and I never search it like right away or anything. It's after the flow state has come through, and it's created all this like almost history for me to go off of, that sometimes I get interested, and I'm like, I wonder if this is something like that's actually like out there. Or like sometimes I'll have a word that I would be doing like writing or speaking, and somehow a word comes out that I've never even heard. And then it's only after I've like lusted that to go with it, that afterwards I'm like, I just need to check what the definition is of this word that I've never even heard of. And it ends up being completely, thoroughly synchronistic with an entire conversation that like I realized that it was naturally occurring. It was that gut, it is that flow, that intuition versus the like, is there a way to recognize what is the searching because of being programmed and searching more programming versus what feels aligned and natural?
Yeah, that's really good how you put it, because because sometimes oftentimes you would get exactly like in the state of what I think you explained it perfectly, because that's exactly what the difference is. Searching something that your mind is constructing to know some specific things, and something that comes naturally to you out of, somebody would say nowhere, but out of what everything is already present. So I think that is the because we as human beings, we want to make a perfect, like, we want to figure it out, and when we figure it out, now we have it, and now we gonna be fine. But the thing is, there is a difference between when you search just like, it's hard to put it, because, for example, what you said before reminded me of one thing, and now you bringing this up, I wanted to bring up one thing, that I never wrote anything before. I didn't write things down. So if I need to remember something, I would just remember it, and I would be thinking, okay, I cannot remember, but can you, and then you do an exercise on yourself, like, can you say anything? And you cannot say anything. Nobody can say anything, because it's already something that you have within you, something that you understand, and something So basically, whatever I'm living through, things that are really important, they're gonna be memorized on their own, and they're gonna be called on when they're needed. But that's also a part of this understanding and of thoughts and so on. But there is another thing that we cannot understand fully, and we cannot control that, but that thing actually exists. At the same time that we are all kind of connected in some way, that you cannot pray to it, that you cannot tap into understanding it, and it just comes naturally, that everybody is connected at the same time, living now, and then things go and they appear, as you said, like, they appear to you out of nowhere, but they actually appear out of a lot of things that we cannot actually grasp, I would say. And if you follow them, that's actually a gut feeling. So I can give you an example there, that you get different relationships throughout your life, and in some relationship, okay, this is fascinating. This I want to understand more about this. I want to, like, this person seems curious. I want to understand more about that. You basically cherry picking stuff. That's why you end up in fucked up relationships. That all of a sudden, when you when you consume that specific thing that you're looking for, then the thing doesn't have any more meaning. But then, like, what happened to me later on, when I had like had every versions of these things, let's say, more or less. Of course there are zillion versions, but I had a lot of different variations of basically the same things. And then when I let go of this searching, and I was like, oh no, like, I'm gonna stay by myself, it's like, I don't know, like, every second relationship is like, every next one is in a way worse than the previous one. It's somehow it's better in a way, but something is worse than the previous one. And then when I just give up and say, like, oh, what's the point, like, even and there are a lot of people on the same, that they don't have anybody to share with the thing. And that goes into another topic deeper. But what I wanted to say here, not to extend to that topic, because we're focusing on just gut feeling here, that what happened to me, I had a dream, so I had some movie that I told you about, like a movie and how it goes, and in the vivid, in a vivid kind of the end of this movie, I just had a vivid kind of, I didn't talk about it, I didn't think about it in any way. It's just all of a sudden, it wasn't a dream, it wasn't a thought that was directly kind of like there. I dreamed about me kind of dying, like killing myself in a sense, like dying with the within some concepts, it doesn't matter, but then I'm kind of dying, the boxes and things we talked about. But dying there, in the forest, and you're like dead, you like you're finally died, and all of a sudden there was a person, coming out from the light, and just come to me, and basically pick a woman, basically pick me up, and she was like from a completely different, like you would never imagine this kind of person, that it would be something like somebody tell you about this, it was like, whoa, what a trashy movie is that, you would be like, what is this, and all of a sudden you just like got dragged by this person into the light, actually. So I got dragged into the light, and after a few years I was actually doing, like I was actually like dating on some of these apps and things, and when I I had also like one really fucked up relationship just before that, and I just give it all, like, this whatever it is, whatever, I just don't even want to think about anything, and all of a sudden I got this, I met this person, and I was like, wow, it's like, and I went out with her, and we started talking and talking and talking, and all of a sudden, but I was like kind of like, this person is kind of like, it's true to me, he's truthful, he's seeing me, really, not seeing, because I usually had people see me like, oh, I'm like a weirdo, I'm doing this and that and the other thing, and then I'm like kind of interesting, but this person actually see me, it was kind of weird, and I was like, and then the thought comes, and the thought tells you like, oh no, this is not, like, oh, what is this and this and that, and judgments and million things in a millisecond. But something inside of you says like, no, this is actually what it is, it's like actually true. And then what is interesting is that later on I also went with this person further on the path, and after just like one day, I just gave her the keys of my apartment, and I was like, I felt that I could. All of a sudden, I was just like, oh no, here you go, my keys, you can come when you want. And I would never do that to anybody, and I was like, because it gut feeling told me she cannot do any harm, like she's perfectly, and with her I had the best conversations that evolved in a different way, and different things, it was really something. And then actually it came to be that that person was actually almost the same, or the same person, but from a dream. And it was like really something that was really interesting, like it was like, wow, how can that be, and then what was also interesting, that person actually lived one station from me, and I also saw this person in the metro, like when I was commuting to work. So it was like really funny, and then that person actually is my wife, and then we also got kid, together. So the thing was, it was like really something that, like and how we got the kid, for example, like where the thoughts comes and where the thing goes is like, I wanted to have kids, but I never thought that I would ever meet anybody, and with with her, all of us, and I was talking with her, and she was like, no, it's like, she didn't want to have kids, too much stress, too much this and that. I was like, okay. And I was really feeling like this is not right somehow, and then just during that time, actually, she was pregnant when we were talking about it. So that was kind of like, and then when she figured out that she was actually pregnant, it was like, hey, she got the results, and yeah, she was pregnant, and it was like, oh. And then I was thinking to myself like, oh, this is hard, like, so the thoughts overcome the feeling in the moment. I can recall the thoughts. It was like, wow, this is serious, like, and then it was like, but it should be what she feels it should be, and I was like, yeah, you think about it and see what you feel. And because I knew that she didn't want to have, but I also didn't believe with all these thoughts and constructs, as you mentioned, constructed in your mind, and you actually feel that you also like, oh, and when it happens, then you think like, wow, what is this? I didn't imagine my life. It was this possible, it was possible. And then what happened, that she was like, no, she want to have it, and she wanted to have it, and then when she got it, she was actually like, and those periods were the best parts of my life, like I was so fucking beautiful that there is like very rare moments that you would want to go back in time, which is never possible, and people shouldn't think about these things, but because it's just making delusions. But one of the moments is just like you would go into that delusion, and staying in that presence of that moment was really beautiful, and a lot more things to it. But what was really interesting is that, and maybe you feel this, you can feel this at some points, that when you hug somebody, you feel within yourself, it's a friend or loved one, or you feel this feeling within you here, and you see that you belong there in that hug. You're there, and that's actually where you're supposed to be. and then what was interesting was when my kid, came out of her on the when she born the kid. We were there, two of us and two doctors, but it was they actually didn't touch her. They didn't take her away because we were kind of lucky that they didn't need to. I know that many children, they just take them away or do cesarean if they need to, of course, to survive and so on, which is all legit. But they didn't need to do any of these things. And I just take it and get it on her chest, basically. And I remember afterwards, when because I didn't hold the kid, I didn't actually hug it before getting onto her. But afterwards, first time when I took the kid, and I took it on my chest, and I felt that, how can I explain this, was that as if the universe, and that's what you can sometimes when you have like some of these kind of altering experiences in the forest and things, you can feel that as if there is a flow of wind and flow, and we talk about that as if the core essence of life is in between the breathe in and breathe out. In that very moment, there is a big breath of everything that is flowing through you, actually is giving life to everything. And that feeling, and as if I now talk about it, I get like chills on it. And when I put it on my chest, I felt that it went through, as if this, what is it, like natural spirit of things, it just went through you. And at that moment, I was complete. And in that moment, I felt like I can die now, and everything else is bonus,
Absolutely. That's beautiful. Honestly, like, obviously that, like, it's so true though that you experience things that you would be, I'm not saying it has to be crazy out there, different experiences, but just things that normally would make you question the world. all of a sudden you just trust, and it's like with my daughter, it was exactly a month prior to when I found out I was pregnant that I had a doctor's appointment. And just so happens the doctor was like, it's probably unlikely that you could get pregnant due to this. 1 month later, and now it's like something, that gut feeling hit me. And I was like, something tells me I need to take a pregnancy test. And it was exactly 1 month after she told me that I probably wouldn't be able to get pregnant, that all of a sudden I was like, okay, like, this is huge. I don't know what to do. But like everything fell in line. And like when I was on a dating app when I first met my husband. And it's funny because there was this, I didn't know what he drove. I didn't know anything like that. But I was standing outside of this pub and I was out there talking to some people, to a friend that people at this pub. And I saw this vehicle drive in, and it was this off the cuff thing. I said, I'm going to marry that person. Like, right? I had no idea who this person was, but like, for some reason, something in me was just like, I'm going to marry that person. Blah, 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 blah. Just keep going. And then all of a sudden I find out after the date that vehicle that drove in was my date. And I was like, oh my goodness. And now it's 11 years this year. And our daughter's she's going to be like 10 this year. Like, honestly, it was everything went against what the constructs were for both myself and him. And yet we had created a life, not just our daughter, obviously, but like everything is in flow. It went against, like, everything was different compared to like normally where I would be, but it was that letting go and just like allowing things to be. And I definitely went through similarities as to what you described, that you gave her time to think and things like that about what she wanted. That was definitely something that I went through. This like, but there was almost like, there was this always knowing, even though there was this chance given to both parties, myself and to him, on whether this went any further. It ended up being, and everything came in flow. And I mean, like I said, 11 years later, we're here. But it's weird how like things that can be like, no, in normal situations based on constructs, but when that gut feeling comes in, is that like you experience these things. And it's funny, actually, when I first had my daughter, the very first feeding, because we had to bottle feed. I actually gave my husband the very first pop feed, because I said, like, I had her for the first 9 months, in me. And she, as soon as she was born, she was put skin to skin on my chest. Is that her very first feeding I gave to him as like their bonding kind of thing. And it was super special. Like, and you could see that same, what you described is like, I can remember being in that moment and it being this, like, your worlds just come together, and like, it's like somehow everything explodes to make a whole. And you're right, like it does, it feels like somehow everything comes together and is perfect in either the most perfect or imperfect perfections. Is that it is exactly how whole you feel in that moment, and you really do. And it's funny, like you said about that returning to, and the illusion of memories and things like that. There is very few that I would return to, not because they weren't good or anything, but there were simple joys that Um, and I purposely, I remember being like, I'm going to take a mental image so I can return to this when I am old and gray. And like I was telling my brother-in-law this week, because his baby is due in the next couple of weeks. She's 37 weeks this week. And I was like, the one thing I can tell you is, don't listen to anybody. Okay? No matter what, no matter who, you are the parent, you are born with an internal instinct, an intuition, a gut feeling that don't ever question it. Like, nobody can tell you, because you have this internal core knowing. You just do. Like my daughter, I knew something was wrong with her hearing. She had fluid behind her ears when she was born. Everybody was like, hey, it's a baby. Like, she's 2 months old. What do you expect for her to have a brilliant conversation with you? I'm like, no, there's just a gut feeling. Thankfully, the pediatrician was like, let's see. And he trusted in me, and we got her checked out. And I mean, she did. She had severe fluid behind her ears. And, like, I wouldn't have known that any other way other than my gut feeling that there was I didn't know exactly what it was, but I knew there was something. And that it's like funny how that gut feeling comes in so many different facets. And it's that without thought aspect, like, and you just trust it.
Yeah, exactly. Perfectly said. Exactly like that. Because you're designed for, I mean, it's a part of your design, basically. It's a part of your design. And what you said about the, like, there is also like the thing that, the smell of them, how they smell. And I think that smell I can describe only like because we didn't shower for like 3 months, when she came out of the, and we were like, that smell is like the most beautiful flower I never ever smelled in my life, and then I was thinking, like, then the thought is like, I don't think that everybody would smell your baby like that, like you do, because that's actually designed that way so that you can recognize it from the somebody else. And it's like, so it's so shameful how everything is so beautiful and so simply existing, like within the nature, and how nature puts things together. It's and everything else, as you say, how it comes in different forms and in different times and for different things, like, for example, like I had a feeling that I wanted to get the video across, that video that you watched, and that's how we got to know each other. And it was like, I knew that I had so strong feeling that I wanted to get it across, and then later on, you were the first actually person who just like actually reacted on it. There was another person just bashing the video, but trying to understand, but then you just resonated, and when I read it, I was like, wow, you exactly know what I was thinking. And the gut feeling is there. You understood it, I understood it, you felt it, and that's how it goes, that's how the thing flows. And I don't know, like, it's so perfect. Everything is so beautiful. And as you said, with your with both of our relationships, what we talked about now is like, you were like, at one moment, if you were like in like how do you say, seeing it outside of yourself as a film or as something that somebody tell you, or something you're looking at, you was like, no, this is not possible, or this is like, what is this, but when it actually happens, it's like the ideal things that you constructed within your indoctrination are actually much less beautiful than what actually is real, and when you follow the feeling through. What is actually happening is like, I could never have imagined that my kid would be like as it is. I would have never imagined in zillion years, in zillion films and constructs, I would never constructed it like that. And in each scenario that you imagine your ideal something, it's much better than what you can ever imagine. So it's like, and it's better, not better in that scale of your thoughts, but it's in a completely different way that you cannot grasp.
Absolutely.
So
And
that's
that was where, like, I was explaining to my brother-in-law is that, like, nobody can tell you because, you know, everybody has opinions. And that's the one thing, like, I don't know about where you are, but where I am, it's a very big common thing that everybody wants to give their, like, it's this thing where everybody wants to give their 2 cents on a new baby. Like, I don't know what it is, but it's like, hey, I'm pregnant. Let me tell you what you need to know, pregnant lady. Or, hey, you're a new parent. Let me tell you all of my advice, by the way. And it's like, do I have a forehead sign that says, please tell me your opinion? No, I don't. And that's where I was telling him, I'm like, because at the end of the day, it's like, and also anything you thought prior may go out the window because you may have had these preconceived ideas, these constructs based on everything that it was programmed and experienced and la-di-da-di-da, that when it comes down to it, the things you may have thought you never would have done or you may have always done may go out the window. Because at the end of the day is that this is the experience, this is the now, this is how these organisms and everything encompassing is working. And to impress constructs or whatever anybody else or society in like imagines as to be the end all be all is where things get really screwed at. But it's this beautiful experience that is like you would have never have guessed it. And that's not where the preconceived ideas is like I may have never thought of doing this, or I thought I'd totally do that. All of a sudden, it doesn't matter, like,
yeah.
because you're gonna experience I think children are like probably the best means of like whether it be force, whether you got there on your own or having a kid that having a kid, it forces you into this position. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm sure the now aspect of like, you may plan dinner at 5 o'clock every day, but guess what? This baby needs to be fed every 2 hours. And guess what? Because they're still human, they may not want to eat every 2 hours. So now you gotta go with the flow. What do you recognize about the baby? Are they hungry? Are they showing signs? Because the moment you put the constructs of the doctor said every 2 hours is like my mom, the best advice she ever gave me, she goes, are you hungry all the time? And mom, well, are you sometimes more than others? I'm like, this. She's like, so what makes you think that your baby's any different? They're still human. And I'm like, yeah, this is true. So sometimes you can't sleep at night. Sometimes you sleep at the same time. Sometimes you're more hungry. Sometimes you're less hungry. She's like, so unless you think you're some magical being or you think she is, hate to tell you, but both of you will experience the same things on your own individually, but you can't put any like specificities that this is how much at exactly this time. And you're like, yeah, I guess there is a natural way. And like, that's where like I noticed that even still, like when my daughter's getting growing, like when she's going to hit her growing pains, 2 days before her growing pains hit, I know she starts eating a bunch more because your body is getting ready for the process of growing. And I've learned to accept it. Like, I just know how to recognize, oh, okay, all of a sudden we've started wanting certain things, like meat is one of them. But like she starts eating more and she's hungry more and she's drinking more water. And I know that almost 2 days later, I can guarantee that she's gonna have growing pains in her legs. And then we go through a growth spurt. And it makes sense though for that natural being of like I'm grateful that I recognize the natural aspects of like, oh yeah, consumption, growth, goes together. But like it's true though, there is that natural aspect, and it's insane because that is where like those social constructs, those like anybody else's perception, even your own prior to, it's like if you try and hold your ideals, it's like that baby was this magnificent, perfect bundle of everything because there was nothing programmed into them. Is that they're going to throw you through a whirlwind and you're going to learn and experience what it means to be a neutral, just be. And you either flow with it or you try and control it. And I guarantee you the controlling it does not work out. For the sake of yourself or these. That's my personal opinion. But that was like I said to him, it's like, just imagine that no matter what anyone tells you, that's their life. I always believe in this idea that we have a lens, that we accumulate our prescription of our eyes all the time with the experience of the thought. It just every second creates its own, kind of like at the eye doctor where it goes, F1 or 32, which one's first? And so over time, that your prescription that you get, the lenses of your eyes internally, is yours and yours alone. And what's attached to that is that instinct. It's how a mom, like how a mother knows, like physically even. When a baby cries, they're hungry. They physically react. They're
wireless feedback.
connection that you cannot, you can say that it's voodoo all you want, but seriously, there's bajillion women that can test to the fact that when baby cries, they're hungry, this happens. Or like the emotional aspect of like when the mom cries, baby cries. Like my husband would always tell me, like, if you're calm, she's calm. And like, I would try my best to remember, because I'm not perfect. But like at the end of the day, is that like there is that interconnectedness. But what I do, like one of the things I'm really interested based off of what you said. Sorry for my long tangent down the road. I'm curious about your dream in which you experienced. Like, did you see her or did you feel her presence?
Like,
it wasn't a dream. It was like a vivid daydreaming. How do you call it? Is it daydreaming?
I know what you mean. It's hard to explain because it's not great like a dream. It's just like all of a sudden like there.
Yeah. So yeah, it was, and it was her. It was exactly like how do you say? It was exactly physically looking like her. Like it could be like physically in the face. Like it's like, or it's like 1-on-1, or it's like almost like that. So that was kind of interesting for me.
Was that the first time that's happened for you? Is it the first or last time? Like, have you experienced dreams that have, like, whether it be a person or a place or something that, like, where you have these, I don't know, I almost call them downloads because
yeah.
Have you had other?
No, not exactly. Not exactly like that. Probably I have, but you call them downloads. What I think is, I mean, for that particular, it was something like a download, because there was really nothing that, because it was really specific, the case, it was really specific how she looked, and it was really specific. So I would say that is like something that I never experienced before, but other things that come into, because I have it like every day, like I have like all of a sudden I have this thought, and then this thought lead to another thought, and another thought lead to another thought, but these are all I can trace them. It's like, okay, I'm thinking about this. You find yourselves ending up in a certain thought, and then you can say like, oh, okay, but this is because okay, what was before it? It was this. Okay, but this led to that because of this reason. Okay, you can basically easily track the thoughts, how they come to be, how something appears that recalls a certain memory recalls another memory, and recalls another. These are logical. They all make sense. Many people cannot even grasp those, and it seems like science fiction to them as well. Like, but this is basic. Like you can really, if you just think about it, you just give it a little bit of of followed investigation into it, you will see that things start making sense, and you see that it's not like you all of a sudden, like, it was so funny one time. Track, it was me and my friend, we were like in a car, and we just ended up in a gas station, and he all of a sudden, I don't want to say, I don't want to market any brand, but all of a sudden there was like a huge, like how do you call it, like for the cans, can machine, how do you call it, like for the juices, how do you call it,
like a vending machine.
soda, like soda vending machine, yeah, actually,
Yeah.
vending machine. And so basically it was like a vending machine, huge commercial for it, like huge sign for it, and he was just drove the car and just like looking at it, and it was like, he didn't see it actually, but he was, and then he was just like, oh, you know what I'm thinking, I just want to drink this, and he said the name of the thing, and the thing was actually in front of him, and I was like, what a strange coincidence was that, because he never drank that thing, and I know him very well, so all of a sudden he ended up with the thing, he was looking at the thing, but he didn't really see the thing, but his subconscious mind seen the thing. So there are many things happening like that, in which people kind of get ashamed to ask questions, but siding too much out of away from this topic, I never experienced anything that was all of a sudden, like I had like really fucked up thoughts, that things that later on happened, in life, and especially on the global scale, but it's something that intuitively you understand, by the reasonings, by the thoughts, by putting yourself in that position, what would you do, and then you just flow through thought process, then you end up having ideas on certain things that later on happen to be. But I wouldn't say necessarily these are downloads, these are actually just something that is really just, it happens and you understand it based on where we're living, what we're living, and then you can understand it. But the download was maybe something like this come out of nothing, nowhere, like because it was something that wasn't within my range of anything, actually, like I couldn't trace it to anything, it was completely all aspects of that particular moment of this light, and she coming in, she looking the way she is looking, it was all really, like out of nothing. So it was interesting.
Feel that, like, since you said that you guys shared the same metro thing, is that, do you ever feel like as though that out of nowhere was like, do you ever feel, I guess, I don't know how to put it, but like you were both in the same places at the same times kind of idea without knowing who each other were?
Yeah, I know what you want to get at. I know what you want to say. I don't know what you want to say. Yeah. So basically, I think this thing exists, and it is what it is. It is present, and it is only when you're released, when you are completely offload of all the garbage, and you just accept the misery of everything, and the perfection of everything, and the happiness of everything. Only when you release your cringing to things, that's how you find work, that's how you find connection, that things naturally flow, and when you just give up. So basically, I think that she actually exists as it is, and she was there, and this whole thing of your whole life and her life synchronicity on the other side lead you to that moment. So basically everything was, how did they say, like supposed to happen, or like, and then you can say, oh, if it's supposed to happen, then it's a story around it, and then if it's a story around it, then you can predict in the future, and you can do like fortune telling and shit. But no, these things are beyond actually our comprehension. That's how I feel about this. it's beyond, because on both sides you can never understand it. Really, if you see the totality of life, you see the totality of life in a sense, you see your position. That's when you see the totality of life. You cannot understand the totality of life. You can understand the totality of your position, which is you don't know shit. But certain things can be known, and they are known without you asking anybody. They are known out of, you are equipped, as you said, before. You have certain things. You're designed to have them. Like how do you say? Like mother is designed to, understand and know about the kid. The same way with everything else. The same way with every other thing. If you just give up the thoughts and like, I don't know, I don't eat this because it's much sugar, or I don't do this because it's much. I'm now having the smartwatch, and I calculate everything. I don't have a smartwatch, but you know what I mean. Like now I should think about like how my heart beats when I'm talking to you, or now how when I go to the bathroom, how and when I go to run to the store. It's like, I mean, this is like total cage. It's total amputation, actually, of the gut feeling. It's like putting tons of millions of shit on the top of gut feeling, getting yourself confused with no repair. But the thing that is funny around it, even though you think maybe there wouldn't be repair for you, who accepted all these measurements of intelligence, the gut feeling is still there, and it's still waiting for you to just like drop all these, because for all this that you're holding up to, that prevents you to see the real inner world and follow inner world of yourself, is like actually all these things are you're forcing them. You need to listen to our conversation. You need to be really forcing yourself if you're like to understand it, or you just see what is, and you understand completely what it is, and then you don't need to force yourself. You just flow with it because it's completely comes naturally to you. You understand what we're talking about because you're feeling the same way.
It's that like both things are harmonizing at the same time. It's funny that you mentioned like the idea of like consumption, and that is that like I know that my mom, she's always like, well, how do you stay the way you are? And I'm like, I intuitively eat. Like, I eat what I stop when I don't want to. I don't, like, I'm very in tune with my mouth. Like, I can determine different, like, notes inside of, like, a food. But I can also decide whether or not this is what I want. Like, I pay attention to what's in my body. And it was funny that this past week is, I actually used that example, was that, like, if you're going around your kitchen and you're really craving something, and it's, like, super in there, that you've chosen to make all the healthy choices to do this and this and this, at the end of the day, you're not going to be satisfied until you put whatever it is into you. That doesn't mean you have to eat a copious amount of it. It can just be a bite of it. Like, for people don't understand that, like, you don't need to eat the box of cookies. You can have one cookie, because, or what is it that you're really craving out of it? Like, I can determine, am I craving like a meat? Am I craving like certain starches? What is it that I'm feeling, and determining it? But like the biggest thing is just like being aware and attuned to yourself with like, not that my biggest thing is not outsourcing. I'm not going to outsource my thought process of what I'm going to eat, what I'm going to enjoy, how much I'm going to eat, what I'm going to go play, what I'm going to listen to, things like that, based on what other constructs are. And I realize everything within myself is now still a construct that in which I've made. But I try my best to be aware of what my body is that I'll recognize, am I thirsty? Am I hungry? And it's something that I try very much with my daughter. Like, I'll be like, are you hungry because you're bored? Or are you actually hungry? And we like devise this because I want her to be aware of her internal. It's just like when she's feeling certain ways, if she's upset or anything, I will ask her how she's feeling. And I help deduce these things. It's not about like saying, no, you don't feel that way, or, oh my God, you feel this way. It's like, okay, somebody said, like, there was way at school and said something to her. I'm like, okay, you realize based off of like how he went about it and did it, like, you're bothered by it because of how you feel. What do you think actually, like, did you do anything? No, I didn't do anything. So then there's nothing to feel bad about. Only to find out, like, we've been through this whole thing deciphering the fact that whether or not what he feels, what he doesn't feel, that is his and his alone. You didn't do anything. You know that you're a good person. Like, if you do not feel, check in with yourself. Did you do something? No. Okay. So, only to for a few days later to find out that he was just back in. It's just idiot. That's just Spain. I'm like, see, like, people just do things because they have this trigger within them. You know, it's weird. Like, you can see people who fight for no reason.
Yeah.
People can't accept the idea of actually, like, what you and I both described with going with our gut feeling and accepting that, like, it may be absolutely crazy to some, but accepting it and going with you, like, with this, and you didn't think about it. There was no preconceived thought. It's that, like, hey, who's that so-and-so? And you're like, how did I know that word? Or remembering a phone number from, and you were like, 5. And you didn't think about it. You just spit it out. It's because it's there. So when you follow that, all of a sudden, like, isn't it? And I don't know, like, it makes sense to the constructs of so, no loneliness. It's there. It's that, it's like, it's there. It is, it's what it's going to be. And I find that to be like the biggest thing that, like, I'm really grateful to help with my daughter, but I also get to see the projections of societal grief. And it can be frustrating because, like, she was at Penland, like, halfway through grade 1. And I really like it. You know, there is these constructs, and I find that, like, we can teach more about internal them and being more, even just those of us who are as adults being more self-aware of our internal navigator.
Yeah. I think we can talk about this one in depth because it goes deep on the a lot of things you're now touching upon about actually, like, understanding and teaching children and because and helping people. I was thinking about, like, helping you. We cannot help anybody. Like, I think that's the first thing to understand. Like, you don't help anybody, because what I noticed sometime, it was I noticed it very late in life, I would say, that you cannot help anybody, is that basically you're climbing the ladders and you have your own climb, your own ladder, and you're climbing to a certain level, and then somebody is climbing. Maybe it's not you. Somebody's climbing, and then they ask, oh, what should I do from here to here? And you can say, oh, you should do just that. But what do they know? Now they need you. Then they need you more to tell them the next step and the next step, and all these steps are not gonna be how they would walk. They would just follow you what you're saying. So the thing is, you cannot really help anybody. But what we are doing here, we're not helping anybody. We're just pointing out things, and people help themselves, because that's the only thing. You help yourself, you realize yourself, you reflect yourself to everything. And but there was one thing that I wanted to say about the last thing you said. If you can just remind me about the exactly. So when you get the thoughts into it, so for example, you wrote me the message on that video. My first reaction was like, I don't know this person, I don't know anything, I didn't know who you were, like, didn't see your face, nothing, you know. I was just like, what is this person? Oh, somebody saw this video. And I was like, okay. And then I read into it and I was like, wow, this person actually knows exactly what I wanted to say, exactly to the point how I wanted to say and how I wanted it to be understood as well. And I was like, wow. And then you also said that helps you to get your own truth across, like some confirmation it gives to you, that what you were thinking also, you're not off the track, on your own life and in your thoughts. And then I was like, okay, what do you mean? So then I wanted to know about what you're doing, and I was like, okay, show me what you're doing. And then that's how we ended up over here. But I think on the same, when I saw your photo, as if I knew you, already. So that was interesting. And when I now track back also other things, when I got the job, I wanted to get a good job at one point in my life, and I risked 3 years of my life just to get there to do it. And then I got this job that I wanted back in the time. And the people that were on the work in my team, each one of them had their faces as if I knew them already. And for me, interacting with them was not strange at all. Was completely like as if I knew all of them with all their characteristics, with all the personalities, I was like, wow. And this happens, like these are things that actually, like as if the not as if it is that the universe is more intelligent than we are. Universe, nature of things that are is intelligent, more intelligent, and we cannot do anything about it. We just need to. The only thing we can do about it is not do anything about it and accept that it is the fact. That's the fact, and everything else that is, you would really notice it because it will be everything else. And then what everything else is, it isn't what it is, and what it is already there.
Do you find
And,
that when
yeah.
you go against it,
That's where complications come in. Like,
Yeah.
of complications that flow? Because obviously there is learning processes, but like when you try and like fight it, do you find that like not you,
You always
say,
get
but like
screwed.
as a general idea, is do you find like fighting
Always get
is
screwed.
where it comes in?
But when you fight it, if I understand what the question is, like when you fight it, you always get fucked. You always get screwed up. You always get screwed up only to later pick it up on the same thing. And that's end up when you follow to somebody else. If you follow, if I tell you do something you don't want to do, and you do it and you don't want to do it, we both gonna pay for it in the end. And that's a natural force. There is some natural things that are fixed, really fixed over here. And they are as they are, and we better start to knowing them not through other people but through ourselves. And maybe that's something that I would like from my part to just end it up on, because maybe you can say something about it and we can conclude it basically.
I think that like honestly this was great because I really believe that everything that we discussed has been really significant to experiences of like what stands out to being that gut feeling, how it pays off when we do, when we don't, like, and how to recognize it. I think that because as we look now, everything is intertwined beautifully, imperfectly, and everything just, it is what it is. And when we fight it, that's when it isn't. And I love it. You've really given so much depth to this. You've given personal experiences that really show how to recognize these aspects. And I think it's honestly something that it's understandable, it's relatable. And that's the biggest thing, because half the time what isn't relatable is that our choice to not acknowledge these like truths within us. It's that self-trust, and you really hone that in and you bring that in, and it's truly impeccable how it's presented, because it's honestly what we experience. But most often we don't really want to admit to ourselves that we're either fighting ourselves or we're like often we don't realize that our success is actually not conceding defeat to ourselves, but our success is actually like allowing ourselves to flow within that natural gut feeling, that intuition, and allowing it to be, but also being aware of where it goes when it is that momentum, but taking that second to either accept when we do have the constructs that may distinguish things as a reflective moment, or being reflective in the moment and recognizing what we may or may not be hindering, impacting, boasting, whatever. And I'm extremely grateful for all of this information, and I love it, and I love going through this web with you. Truly.
Thank you. Same. I'm like, I never had to talk with these things in depth that would get the same resonance, back. So for me, it's new, something new, and the gut feeling says it's correct to do it. Purely, it says there is no other way. You just do it, because it would be not doing it would be against. And you can find always things why not doing it. There are million ways, million reasons why you wouldn't do it, but there is only one reason why you would do it. And you don't know exactly what is the end result, and that's the thing, but you totally know that that's the right thing to do. And the same that goes in the intro of the thing, the guy standing in front of the tank. Remember that? The tank man. Yeah. So the tank man actually, that's the gut feeling. The reason we say, like, don't stand there. Don't do it. Don't do that. But, but he died and whatever happened to him later. But how many people he impacted? So the thing is that's so powerful. So in these situations, you follow your gut feeling no matter what, because in the end of the day, the nature doesn't want you to suffer, and you better know it, because you see, I know the people are dying around, and I know some friend recently, like the mother died, and she was like, oh, she wanted to do like medical things on her, and this woman didn't want to do it. And I remember when my uncle died, I was advising him to do this, to do that, the other thing, and you could see that he will let it go. You could see in conversations with him, you could see that he was zoomed out. He wasn't really listening to what I'm talking about, and like he didn't even have attention to to see the kid or anything. You could see that they are gone. They're decided that they're gonna go, and that's the only way that they naturally, no matter the constructs, no matter how they were, no matter when the thing kick in, it's a natural force kick in, and it do the things that they need to be done
Absolutely.
perfectly.
Right. Nature, when it really comes down to it, no matter how much we create constructs and nature things, it's that there is a natural part of us that, you're right, like, we are not designed to suffer. We disassociate. We do, or we, if it's in a matter of emergency, we react, like whatever it is. There's a natural thing that keeps us doing what is best for the organism, and we're not meant to suffer. That's where the mentality comes in, and where suffering a lot of times is based on the mental aspect of things.
Exactly. Let's close it at this.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for today.
That's been amazing.
Thank you.